Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. As promised in my previous vlog, I said that I was going to make a story time about how I got accepted into my LPN-BSN program that starts next year in January. So welcome back. If you're new here, hi, my name is Emma. I'm an LPN. Please consider subscribing if you haven't yet. So let's just get right into it because I'm really hoping that it's not a long video. So let me just give you guys a background about my school history. So I received my bachelor's degree in 2017. I graduated with a bachelor's in psychology and a concentration in biological sciences. I took up the biological science concentration because I knew that immediately I wanted to start applying to nursing programs. I had been in school for so long, you guys, for this undergraduate degree. By the time I was done and applying to nursing programs, with my history of classes, the mistakes that I had made in the beginning, my college career, I just had made a lot of mistakes. So after I graduated with my undergraduate, I ended up doing summer classes to repeat some of those science courses. That was in 2017. I applied to many schools for the BSN program. I did not get in. I ended up applying to the LPN program and I got in and graduated in 2020. By the time I graduated in 2020, the first sequence to my science classes, so AMP1, chemistry, all those first sequence science classes were expiring. So as a new grad LPN, I was just like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not going back to school to repeat classes just to finish school this early on. So I worked for 4 years and here we are. So fast forward to last year, I started to just think about going back to school. I just knew that after 40, I did not want to be in somebody's undergraduate program. I just knew it. And there's nothing wrong with being in your 40s or 50s in school. Like, if I do decide to go back for my master's, there's no telling how old I'm going to be. But as for me and the way my life was going, I just wanted to get it out of the way. And I remember telling my husband, like, this is now or never, basically. So last year, one of my New Year's resolutions was to get the ball rolling with, what I needed to do to start the process of, applying to nursing school. And I started this year with a goal of just gathering up local schools in my area. And then also I ended up contacting the university that I graduated from to see if they were offering any online science classes that I could take for the summertime of this year. So I called a few of them. Some of them were like, yeah, we do offer like chemistry. You can do the lecture part online, but you have to come in for 3 hours for the lab portion. Y'all, I was not having it because I work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and their summer schedule for classes was just not meshing well with me. And so I grew very frustrated, y'all. Like, I was so over the whole process. And so I just continued to pray on it. I was praying and fasting on this entire process. So fast forward to like the beginning of spring of this year, I was laying in bed late at night, as I usually do when I'm having a sleepless night. I'm online. I'm on Google, just Googling random things, just researching random things, right? So half the time, that's how I'm able to do my sit down videos with y'all when I'm sharing something, is because I just be up late at night looking up random jobs, looking at different schools, looking up random medical conditions. Like, I just do the most when I'm sleepless. So it's like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and something came to my mind and I'm like, I can't be the only person who's ever wondered if there is like a completely online program. Like there has to be a way. Like, I'm one of those people who tries to find if there is a way to something. Like, I'm going to research it. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to ask around. I'm going to find out if there is a way. So I ended up Googling online LPN-BSN programs, right? And I came across a few blogs, and they had like a list of schools that were out of state. I think there was one school in my state. So I was like, okay. So I started to read into some of these schools, like the school that I just got accepted into right now. I started to read that the entire program is online. It's structured specifically for LPN adults who have a life, who work, and who need the program to be online, and the program just requires that you go to clinicals wherever you're assigned to. Y'all, when I tell you I spent the entire night looking up these programs, by the time the next day came, I remember this, I was working in the middle of my shift around noon or 1 p.m. during my lunch break. I already had a whole list of schools that I wanted to call. So I started to call around, and I ended up calling my school, which I didn't know it was going to be my school at the time, but I called my school. I remember I was sitting on that staircase speaking with one of the advisors for the nursing program. She answered all of my questions. I was like, how long has this program been? Is this truly an online thing? And she explained the whole program to me. And I was like, what do you guys do in terms of clinical? She's like, we arrange clinical placements for you guys during the program. I was like, is this full-time, part-time? She told me that in the past, they even had like pregnant students who would take like a full semester off and then resume their program just fine. And I was like, what? Where have I been besides under a rock, right? So she gives me all the requirements, the academic requirements and all that. And I remember hanging up the phone feeling really excited, but also a little bit nervous because my track record for my science courses was not that great. I've had to repeat some science classes. I've had D's in some science classes. Like I had to withdraw from some, like in the beginning of my college years when I was young and dumb. And so she gives me the GPA needed for science courses and overall. And so when I hung up, I was so excited, but I came in the living room. I remember my husband was sitting down on the couch on his computer. And I remember telling him, I don't know, like, am I going to be able to do this? Like, I don't know what my science GPA is, and I don't know how they go about adding up your total like GPA average. So he's like, okay, let's just see. Oh, and that's one more thing that really sold me was that they didn't care how old your science classes were. So I was definitely sold by them. So my husband grabs his computer, and so I access my transcript and we go over my GPA. We go over all of my science classes. We calculated my GPA and it came to like a 3.0 or 3.1 something. And I was like, okay, well, if they only add up my most recent grades, that's perfect. But if they have their own separate formula for all the attempts and all the grades that I've ever had, then, we're in trouble. And my husband is like, just apply. What's the worst that can happen? Y'all, I'm so grateful to God, and I'm so grateful that the Holy Spirit inspired him to encourage me to just go ahead and do it, take a chance, because I was so caught up in this. Am I worthy of applying to this program? Are they even going to want to look at my application once they see all the history of my science classes? Anyways, long story short, I decided to just go ahead and do it. I prayed on it, fasted on it. So I went on the school's website, printed out the checklist that they have for admission into their program. I went ahead and paid the application to apply to the school first. And then I needed to go through the transcript evaluation. So I went ahead, contacted all of my schools, all of the schools I had ever been to, including my high school, requested all the transcript. Some I was able to do electronically, the other ones I had to request to be mailed. And then after that, you just have to wait. I think it was maybe 2 to 3 weeks until they were able to receive all of my transcripts and then review them. I got an email to say that, everything went well and that I qualified to move to the next step, which was to apply and pay for the Kaplan exam. Before I even got that email, y'all, I had already purchased my Kaplan exam practice book via Amazon. It came the next day and I was already going through some of the content. I was literally moving by faith. So they sent me that email. That's when I was like, okay, great. I'm not going to sign up for the exam yet. I'm going to give myself 6 weeks to study. And I did. I signed up for it when I was ready. School required, the minimum score was a 75 on the Kaplan exam, but the lady had told me that the previously admitted cohort had scored an 81, an 82, had scored an 82 on the Kaplan. That was the average of the previously admitted cohort. So I was like, I'm gonna shoot for a 90 just because I need to I really need to increase my chances of getting in. So I took the Kaplan exam, which was a whole process in itself. I was so flustered. I didn't start my exam till like 30 to 35 minutes after start time because of the kind of proctor I had. And it was just a long story, but the beginning, I would say like the first 45 minutes of my exam, I was very flustered. But long story short, I scored an 81. I was happy that at least I had scored higher than the average that the school asked for, but I was kind of sad that I scored below like my desired score. And so my husband was like, just call and see if that's enough. So I decided not to call. I was like, I'm just gonna sign up for another one. So I did. The following weekend, I asked my husband if he could take off and I signed up for the exam. On exam day, I show up. I had my proctor. Funny enough, it was the same proctor from the first exam, and she's trying to get the exam started for me, and it's not starting. And I'm like, what is going on? Long story short, she was like, I'm sorry, I can't start this exam for you. You're gonna have to contact your institution to see what's going on their end. I sent a screenshot to the lady at the school who's responsible for the whole Kaplan testing. And that following Monday, I was on the phone calling. I was like, hey, I sent you an email this past weekend. This is what happened, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, well, you scored 81 for your first attempt. And honestly, this is a pretty good score. I would just keep this score and move on with the application process. And I was like, I really wanted to, try my luck at scoring higher. She's like, no, honestly, this is good. I will go ahead and submit the score. And I'm like, lady, this is not what I'm calling you for. I'm calling you because I'm actually trying to score better. So she looks into whatever happened and she goes, it looks like you did not purchase the exam. And I was like, what? She goes, yeah, you paid for the proctor exam on their website, but you didn't purchase the Kaplan exam to be taken on the date that you try to take it on. So with the Kaplan exam is actually free. You just have to go on another website to pay for the proctoring, for someone to watch you as you're taking it. And I was so mad, y'all. I felt defeated. I felt upset. I was like, how could I have missed this? I mean, I just did this for the first attempt. How could I forget to purchase the exam? But anyways, so I was so mad and so defeated. I was just like, no, you know what? I decided to just follow the lady's advice and move forward and just take my first score. So once I was done with that, I had to get my immunization done. I went to my local clinic to get my vaccines done and to get the paperwork filled out to list all the immunizations I had done in the past. But for my TB testing, I actually went to the health department because they were offering it for a lot cheaper. Keep this in mind, right? So I got that done. Time went by and literally I was on a crunch time. The week before submission was due, actually a few days before the final deadline for submission for the application, is when I had all of my paperwork ready to submit. When I tell you I was a nervous wreck, I was vlogging a little bit around that time, but I think I was also telling you guys some of the stresses that I was going through, but I don't know if I went into detail, but I was a nervous wreck. So I sat down, first attempt that I applied. We did all the stuff. The application actually required that you turned all of your paperwork into PDFs. We did all that. My husband, my amazing husband, helped me just put everything together on his computer because at the time I didn't have my own personal computer and I was not going to use my work computer. So we're all doing it on his computer. He has an Apple and I don't do Apple. I'm a Windows girl through and through. So we did all that. We submitted it. The next day, y'all, the Holy Spirit just gave me a nudge and was like, check your application. So the next day, in the middle of my work, I checked my application and I saw that I had not electronically signed one of the parts for the drug screening. Basically me just acknowledging that, you know, I don't use drugs, I'm drug free, whatever. So I panicked. We resubmitted the application again. And I sent an email to whoever, like I forgot, but there was someone in the nursing department. I sent an email to them. They responded like the next day. They were like, that's fine. Anyways, like it's your most recent application that's received. And we don't see any other previously admitted one. So I was like, okay, submitted one. So I was like, thank God, right? The next day, something told me to check my application receipt again to just go over the paperwork. I missed something on there. So I had to ask my husband, like he works nights. So I had to wait till he got off work the next day so that we can resubmit it, y'all. And this is a few days before the deadline. When I tell y'all my nerves were bad, when I tell you I could have probably lost half of the hair on my head during that time frame, I was a nervous wreck, okay? So we submitted it. I sent another email. I was like, I'm so sorry for the back-to-back submissions, but here's my final one. Boom. The waiting period began. They told us that it would take at least 3 weeks. Like by the end of the month, we should have answers as to whether or not we got it. I was a wreck, y'all. 3 weeks was way too long for me. So I prayed, fasted, stressed out. I'm pretty sure I was stress eating around that time too. But that felt like the longest 3 weeks ever, like so long. And, you know, life went on. I was continuing to work. By then I had picked up my side hustle. So I was keeping busy with my side job doing home health. And the week before decisions, I called the school. I was like, hey, you know, I'm just curious about how many students you usually admit per semester. And the girl was like, oh, about 50 students. And I was like, oh, that's it. And she goes, yeah. And sometimes when we have more room, it's between 50 and 66 students. I was like, okay. So I'm just trying to like do the math in my head to see, okay, like the minimum is 50 students and maximum is 66. Like, what are the chances that I'll be amongst that number? So the week comes. I'm a nervous wreck. When I tell y'all I'm checking my email, I started checking my email like soon after I submitted my application. I was just always checking my school email, refreshing, checking my school email, refresh, nonstop, obsessively during that entire month. So the last Friday of the month, I was at work, sitting on the corner of my couch on my work computer. It was 11 something, and something had told me to check my email on my phone. And I was like, let me just check my email and see if I'm gonna get something. I'm probably not gonna receive anything till like end of day or something like that, right? Because they just wanna work on people's nerves. So I log into my school email. The first thing I see is the title, important message from, and then part of the message that said, congratulations, I am ... So I immediately frantically click on the email and it said, congratulations, I am pleased to inform you that the admissions committee has completed the review of your application and would like to offer you conditional admission into such and such university for the baccalaureate nursing LPN-BSN track for spring of 2025. Full admission is dependent upon providing corrected application documents. Keep that in mind, y'all, because I got a story for that. So as soon as I saw it, my mouth dropped. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, that's all I kept saying. Oh my gosh. My husband was sleeping. It was like 11 o'clock. He was sleeping. He had come home from work early that morning. Y'all, I ran up the stairs so fast and I bust open through that door and I was like, guess what? Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe it. Guess what? And he gets up out of bed and he's like, what? And now, so I showed him the email he holds and he tells our daughter, tell mommy congratulations. She's going to nursing school. Y'all, I lost it. I started crying and I thank the Lord for just like, for that blessing. I just could not believe it. So I immediately went back downstairs and I accepted my spot. I confirmed my spot and my acceptance into the program. And so I'm reading on, and all application document corrections must be completed before you register for your nursing courses. So I'm like, what else did I miss? I mean, I submitted my application like 3 times, basically 3 times. Like, what else did I miss in this application? So the weeks went by. I was being told that, to wait for that email with the details to it. Weeks go by. A month later goes by, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, in the meantime, I'm getting emails from my advisors. They're introducing themselves to me. I'm being asked to, think about what classes I want to start taking, how many credits I want to take in the spring. I'm like, I'm not trying to think about all that. I just want to know, what is it in the application that I need to submit, because I just received a conditional acceptance. So lo and behold, the week before that document was supposed to be uploaded, like the deadline for that document. So I finally get the email from the admissions people, and they're like, oh, your immunization documentation needs a signature. It looks like you went and got your TB testing done, but the results don't match the rest of the dates that you got the other vaccines. So I'm like, okay, so what do you need me to do? And they're like, we need, number one, we need proof of the results for your TB, and we need a signature next to the date that your results were given. So I called the health department, I explained to them what was happening, and they ended up telling me that the provider will only be available on Thursday to sign my paperwork. Meanwhile, this paperwork is due for submission that following Monday. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So y'all, I grabbed my phone, I grabbed my work computer, I put myself in that car, and I went straight to that health department that Thursday, because I wanted to make sure, because they were telling me earlier that week, oh, you can come drop off the paperwork and the provider can sign it whenever they get a chance on Thursday. I said, no, I'm coming in person. She's like, you really don't have to, just come and drop it off, we'll get it done. And I said, it's okay, I'll come by in person. Y'all, I spoke with the lady at the front desk, and the provider signed it. I drove home, turned the signed form into a PDF. My husband helped me do that. And then I submitted it. I thank God to this day that I receive like text notifications of any incoming emails from this school, because hours had went by. It was close to 4 p.m., close to end of day that Thursday. And I'm in the middle of my work, and I get a ping notification, and I get an email. She's like, this is not enough documentation. We need proof of the test itself. Thank God, you guys, I kept a separate file of all of my testing and immunizations that I had done this year. And so I sent it to her, and she's like, yeah, this is enough. This is enough documentation. And then it sends me another email at 4:10 p.m. saying, your nursing application documents are complete. Make sure you save the corrected documents you submitted, as you will need them again. Y'all, I could finally breathe. Because for a split second, I thought the opportunity I thought I was given had slipped through my hand. When I tell you it was a journey, it was a journey. And this is why I did not feel comfortable, or did not even have the willpower to share this entire process with y'all, because there was just too many up and down moments. And yeah, and also I wanted to let you guys know, this was actually the only school that I applied to. My other backup plan, my plan B, was Chamberlain University. They have one here at my state, but they're not online. I would have had to figure something out to start going to school on campus, and that is something I really did not want to do. So I stayed prayed up during this entire process for this one school that I put all of my eggs in the basket for. I prayed for this whole process to fall through for me, and it did, and I'm so grateful to God. And he just spared me and took me through this entire process, y'all. So thank you for sitting through this entire story time. I hope that it was entertaining to you or informative. I don't know, but yeah. See you in my next video. Bye.